From the CNN News 18 primetime studio, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions. Viewers, I want you tonight to look very closely at this picture in the middle of your screens. You see the leaders of some of the world's most powerful countries sitting like admonished school children in the principal's office. All of them struck a deal with Trump. But on America's terms, EU accepted 15% import tariff on 70% of EU exports, agreed to suspending retaliatory tariffs, waived tariffs on US cars and industrial goods. Japan pledged $550 billion in investments in the United States, waived a written trade agreement. Viewers, political backlash at home now threatens Prime Minister Ishiba's position. Do you know, and I'll come back to those two visuals, viewers. Do you know what the Financial Times said about these European leaders? It said Europe is selling its soul to Trump. The Financial Times remarked that Europe's leaders compromised on their most cherished values, democracy and rule-based trade. Would you have liked to see Bharat's Prime Minister behave like a supplicant, like some schoolboy, like some mendicant with a begging bowl in the court of Tsar Donald Trump? Obviously not, viewers. India's soul can never be bought. India has stood for 7 millennia. We didn't sell our soul to Islamic British colonizers. We have stared down nuclear-tipped powers on our borders. What is the United States? It's a country that today has lost its claim to morality, credibility, and with that, viewers, its authority. By not surrendering to such a depleted power, Prime Minister Modi has scored a massive win for India's strategic autonomy. And that's why our Prime Minister indicated that there can be no surrender. He said, and I quote him, "Today in the world, everyone is busy doing politics based on economic interests. Be it the small entrepreneurs, farmers, or animal keepers of my country, for everyone. I promise you, again and again, your interests are paramount for Modi. My government will never let any harm come to the small entrepreneurs, farmers, and animal keepers. No matter how much pressure comes, we will keep increasing our strength to withstand." And viewers, the Prime Minister went on to urge all of us to do our bit in national duty, to go out there and consume more Indian products, to come out there and invest in the Indian economy. Listen in, viewers.
आत्मनिर्भर भारत के अभियान को हम सब आगे बढ़ाएं, वोकल फॉर लोकल बने, स्वदेशी ये हमारा जीवन मंत्र बनना चाहिए दोस्तों। गर्व से स्वदेशी की तरफ चल पड़ो। भारत सरकार ऑटो इंडस्ट्री के लिए रेयर अर्थ मैग्नेट की शॉर्टेज से जुड़ी कठिनाइयों के प्रति भी सजग है। इस दिशा में देश के सामर्थ्य को बढ़ाने के लिए हमने नेशनल क्रिटिकल मिनरल मिशन भी लॉन्च किया है। आज भारत की मेक इन इंडिया इस यात्रा में एक नया अध्याय जुड़ रहा है। आज से भारत में बने इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स 100 देशों को एक्सपोर्ट किए जाएंगे।
The government has let it be known, and I'm quoting it, communication channels are open between India and the United States to resolve the tariff issue. There should not be any panic. Impact is not as exaggerated or projected as India's exports are quite diversified. It's a temporary phase in a long-term relationship. And on the other side, viewers, the great hawks in Washington, D.C., like the trade secretary there of Donald Trump, Scott Bessent, he's saying that India and the United States are going to come to an agreement very soon. And that the two Modi and Trump are good friends and have great respect for each other. Viewers, our stand is being lauded the world over. Even in the United States of America, Arnold Bertrand, entrepreneur, says, you can say what you want about India. Modi does have the political courage that Europe thoroughly lacks. Imagine if Europe had done this with Russia when Trump started, like he just did with India, to go hostile on trade. Not only would they not be in the absurd situation where they need to negotiate peace with Russia via the intermediary of a hostile Trump, but they could also be rebuilding ties with Russia as leverage against American extortion. Michael Rubin, former Pentagon official, no less, viewers, has said Prime Minister Modi standing up for India's rights is going to be the episode that historians remember where the US truly learned that you cannot kick India around, unquote. Today, we command respect because we stand as a beacon for the global South in our collective fight to shape a more equal world. Sure, viewers, there will be pain. There will be costs to bear, but surely not as great if we were to lose our dignity. National dignity is the key to our sovereignty, security, identity, and survival. This is a temporary hiccup at best. Why do I say this? Because the facts speak for themselves. India is very resilient, viewers. And a small wrinkle like this is not going to stand in the way. Let's show you the hard facts. And I always come to this show with the hard facts so you can get closer to the truth. Viewers, these are inviolable, cannot be challenged. India is stirred, but it's not shaken. Let's look at the trade impact of this 50% penalty, viewers. Export to the United States are about 15% of India's total global exports. 55% of those total exports to the United States are impacted by the 50% tariff. That means, viewers, the remaining 45% are not. GTRI forecasts that export to the United States may see a 43% drop to about $49.6 billion. The takeaway is this: even as a full-scale tariff impact would only dent, not derail India's trade engine. Consumption-led economy, viewers, is our biggest feather in our cap. The World Bank claims private consumption 60% of India's GDP. Export dependence far lower than China, 20% of GDP. South Korea is 43% of GDP. Vietnam is 93% of GDP, viewers. They are more exposed to export shocks than India is. There's sectorial resistance. IT services and software exports stand at about $254 billion in FY24. These are NASSCOM figures, mostly digital, not tariff sensitive, viewers. That's the takeaway. Commerce Ministry places pharma exports at $28 billion in FY24. Most are essential generics, difficult to replace. Diversified trade basket. India's exports to Middle East and Africa, ASEAN combined over 30% of the total. New trade deals are being signed with the UAE, the CEPA, Australia, ECTA, UK. Even, viewers, there is going to be a deal with the European Union, which will all reduce our reliance on the United States market in the short term. Geopolitical and corporate leverage. That's what we command. US FDI stocks in India are $60 billion. American big tech, defense, and pharma deeply invested in India's market. Washington's unlikely to risk disruption in viewers. That's why there is a lot that could have been done, which hasn't been done. There are many in India who are suppressing these hard facts. Do they lack faith in India's resilience and the genius of Indians to smooth out this wrinkle? Why are they weakening India's fight by taking an obtuse line on India's stand? Do they see themselves as part of the problem, or do they see themselves as part of the solution? Viewers, these are some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves tonight. And I want to open this up because, viewers, this is going to be an interesting conversation where we are going to include a number of stakeholders. I have with me Mark Mobius, who is an investor in the India story. And we are going to ask him a few direct questions. We also have with us trade analysts. We have a geopolitical expert. We have some other individuals who will speak largely from a political point of view. But let me begin with Mark Mobius, investor and author in emerging markets. Now, Mr. Mobius, Trump's blanket tariffs, are they more a political gimmick than serious economic strategy or leverage or even punitive measures to get India to walk their talk, do what they want? Mr. Mobius.
Oh, there's no question it's political. Trump wants to have the Ukraine war ended. He wants to put pressure on Russia. And one way to do that is to reduce Russia's income from sales of oil. And as you know, India is a big importer of Russian oil. And of course, China. And, interestingly enough, the U.S. is not going after China in that respect. I'm waiting for them to impose another 25% on China for their purchases of Russian oil. So it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. In that respect, I believe that this is a short-term measure on the part of the Trump administration and probably will not last.
So let me ask you, if it's not going to last, and we're already seeing indications, viewers, that are coming in now from the United States that inflation is going to go up, there's going to be a little bit of disruption, that there's going to be a blowback. All of these facts are also being now put out increasingly. But Mr. Mobius, why hasn't the Indian market been rattled? It seems that it has discounted the impact. Or has the government taken steps to outflank, I won't use that word, but at least outmode Trump's tariff tyranny? What do you think is happening here?
Yes, the market has, the market always thinking ahead. So they've already discounted what's happened so far. It's in the market right now. So, and you can see the market has not really been impacted that very much. But the good news is that as a result of this, the Indian government, and I think Modi, as you know, has long favored reform of the government bureaucracy and of the very complex tax system that is in place in India. And I think changes in that area will be very good for the Indian economy. So in some ways, what the US has done is a blessing in disguise for India, because it's forcing the Indian government to make some changes and reduce the bureaucracy, reduce the complexity of the tax system, and generally make reforms that are good for the economy and good for business. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Indian government, as you know, already has made some changes.
Right.
And I think going forward, there'll be more changes being taken.
Okay, stay on with me. Let me open this up a little bit. Let me bring in Ajay Bagga, who's a market expert, someone who looks at trade closely and numbers in general. Now, Ajay Bagga, I want to ask you, we are saying that we were prepared, that over the last 3 or 4 months, as things have unraveled in the way that they have unraveled, we've taken steps to diversify our exports and supply chains quite a bit. Now, I want to ask you, first of all, what is the likely impact going to be of this punitive measure? Is it going to be lasting? I'm seeing IMF has revised its numbers upwards of India's GDP projection. What is that based on? Why is it that this particular 25% sanction, let's just call it what it is, this sanction is not throwing everything out of gear? Yes, there will be some obvious impact on certain sectors, and yes, even tomorrow the market might react, but it hasn't ever really crossed 800, 900,000 points, but it's not really what many people have thought it would amount to. Why?
Yeah, absolutely, Rahul, because it has been a well-expected move. Where it is not fair, that is very clear. It is a trade embargo. And, but the good news is now, even if he makes it 5,000%, it doesn't matter, because even at 50%, there is no trade. So overall, there is very little power left with Trump to do further damage. He can take it to other areas, which would be like sanctions, which it does not merit treating India like this. But it is unfair. We have to move on from that narrative. The market has already moved on. What Mr. Mobius said, market is forward looking. What we are looking at now, one, GST cut is coming. So consumption tax cut is coming. We already saw a salary tax cut coming. Income tax cut has come. So little stimulus was there in the economy. RBI has been cutting rates. They've cut by about 100 basis points, 1% already since February. RBI has injected a lot of liquidity into the market. So the markets have not performed well. The Indian markets have been underperformers for the last 12 months. That's a fundamental issue. But linked to the tariffs, we have not had a very big impact. We don't anticipate a big impact in the opening part of the segment you mentioned. Our export dependence is low. Our service exports are higher than our goods exports. That gives a lot of strength. Our remittances are quite high at more than $130 billion a year. That gives a lot of resilience to the economy. This is pushing India to look at both its geostrategic alternatives, because it's showing that India is being made an example of when he's not touched China, he's not touched Turkey. EU is importing a lot of stuff from Russia still. US itself is importing. And guess what? The EU exports, Rahul, to all the Central Asian nations are up 600 to 800%. Those countries all of a sudden are not consuming all the high-tech gadgetry going from the EU. It is all going to Russia. It is all transshipment happening. So it's a hypocritical move which is singling out India. It was more a demonstration to Russia that we can make an example of someone as big as India, the fourth largest economy. So you watch out. Second, it was telling China that don't worry, we are not going to make a geostrategic alliance with India, so you calm down. And that has happened. If you look at the Taiwan Strait, China is not reacting as it would be reacting. So there is some understanding of the US with China, because China has their neck in its hands with its rare earths.
I'm not going to take you out of your area of expertise into geopolitics. So let's just park that aside for a few moments. I appreciate the overarching analysis that you have made here, and it is very, very interesting that, and I want to bring in on that point Sushant Sareen. Look, Mr. Sareen, Europe and Japan eventually surrendered to Trump's tariff diplomacy. I mean, I'm using that word, but many people will call it tyranny. Modi, by contrast, refused to bend India's rules or sovereignty. Shouldn't that be seen as a mark of strategic courage rather than, as some people are saying, failure? How should we assume and how should we view this?
Rahul, to call it failure, I think that would be rather stupid for a very simple reason, that if you are saying that the Prime Minister of the country is saying that I'm not going to allow a very important section of the Indian population which could suffer if you just simply open up the trade gates tomorrow, I'm not going to allow that. How is that failure? In what book is it failure? And in fact, the fact of the matter remains that whatever trade deal was negotiated and was put on Donald Trump's table was a deal in which we had shown enormous flexibility. The thing is that unlike Europe and Japan and some of the other countries, which for their own reasons, I don't hold it against them, but for their own reasons of their dependence on the United States, partly political, strategic and economic dependence, they simply did not, want to stand up or stiffen their back. In fact, apparently the Europeans gave in even without a negotiation. They just signed on the dotted line. Whatever Trump wanted, he got. Now, whether he will actually get what he wanted ultimately is another matter, because he thinks he's going to get trillions of dollars which will come into the US coffers. Clearly, he doesn't know how foreign direct investment works. But he seems to think that it's going to be money which will come into the US Treasury. It's not going to work that way. But having said that, I think from the Indian point of view, there were certain red lines, and no government in India, whether it is Mr. Modi, whether it was somebody else, would have agreed to some of those conditions which the Americans were trying to impose upon us. And to that extent, it's fair enough what we did. And in fact, to that extent, the tariff which was being imposed on India was not, it wasn't so damaging. At 25% tariff, when most of our other competitors had a 20% tariff, we could have very easily handled that. The problem is this additional 25%, the sanction part, which makes, as Mr. Bagga is saying, it makes trade virtually impossible in those particular goods. But remember, even the products which have been subjected to this additional tariff are those in which the United States can very easily outsource from other players. He has spared all those things where US companies would have suffered grievously. So electronics, some of the service sector industries, he has spared all of that. He has spared pharmaceuticals and a couple of other products where the US needs us. In fact, the irony is he has even spared the oil, the Russian oil, which is being processed in India and being sold to the United States.
Yeah.
Even that is not subjected to this 25% additional tariff. Can you think of something more bizarre that you are taxing us 25% for buying Russian oil, but that oil which we process and sell to you, that is not tariffed? So, there is clearly, it is partly political, partly geopolitical, and partly it's part of that trade negotiation strategy. But I think what the damage which is being done is on the trust and confidence that had been built up over decades between India and the United States. I think that has been very severely dented and damaged. The government of India is still showing nerves of steel, I would say, and they are not reacting in a knee-jerk manner. But of course, if tomorrow you have the Americans lean on the Europeans or some of our other trading partners where we are thinking of diversifying our exports, then there'll be a very, very serious crisis that we will face. But until that happens, I think it will be tough times for us. There will be sectors which will suffer grievously. And frankly, it's very easy, Rahul, for people like you and me to say that, this is something we can tide over. But the sectors which are deeply in the hawk when it comes to trade with the United States, it'll have a devastating impact on them. And we cannot really ignore that. Some of that impact will be absorbed by the government, I hope.
But there are some steps that have been talked about and will be and they also have a GST reform that is taking place, and many people are seeing that as an attempt to deal some amount of concession to some of these sectors that are going to be hit, especially the MSME sectors in textiles, jewelry, and all of that. So, but be that as it may, no one is saying that these are going to be easy times. But what is upsetting is that there is this whole constituency, and I think you called them out, Sushant Sareen, and you did a very effective job, who say that personal diplomacy has failed, that MEGA and MAGA equals mega was what the Prime Minister was going around saying, and look what happened. There's been a mega Maha assault on actually India and this friendship and trust and so on and so forth. But there are global observers, including Pentagon officials, who praise Modi for showing the world that India cannot be pushed around. Isn't that exactly the kind of international respect India needs, Dr. Sumant C. Raman? I would assume that you would come out and say that Modi's done a fantastic job. He was asked to bend. He hasn't, let alone bend. He's walked in straight, looking Trump in the eye. So why are we becoming such negativists? Why are we weakening this fight? What is the idea?
Nobody is weakening the fight, Rahul. Look, let's appreciate one thing. These tariffs are grossly unfair. India is being singled out. India is being punished. Now, let's come to this. The world leaders, many of them, had, quote unquote, a good relationship with Mr. Trump when this whole thing started. That didn't save their countries from facing tariffs. The difference is they went there, they sat across the table and they sorted it out. They made...
No. They didn't sit across the table. Please. Oh, they were given a dictation. You saw them? I'll show you those pictures. You see how they were lined up like school children?
Okay.
There they are.
Rahul, one second.
Yeah.
1 second.
Go ahead.
No, they were lined up like school children.
So do we know more than the Financial Times and its analysis?
1 second, Rahul. Right. Since we know everything, the rest of the world, I remember being on this debate a few weeks ago where you said that they are all people who have surrendered, they are craven people, they
It
have
is
got
true.
no brain. That effect. Now, let me ask you a simple question. The European Union has surrendered. Japan has surrendered. Korea has surrendered. They are all spineless people. They are all people who don't have any understanding of international economics, policies, nothing. Only we have it. Okay, let's assume that that's for a moment. Second, look, the impact in some, it's all very well for you to sit in a TV studio and me to sit in my house and say that yes, there will be a little bit of pain. As we speak, the mills are starting to face the heat in places like Tirupur. Surat is going to face the heat. There are people who are going to be laid off in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Some arrangements, there has to be some kind of moratorium on loans which have to be given. There have got to be some kind of support, some kind of sustenance support that the government has to plan. It's all very well talking about how brave we are and how we are looking people in the eye, but these people need support, for God's sake.
Can I ask you a
and
question?
To say that we are walking tall, we are staring
Can
them
I ask
down
you a
in
question?
the face, is not going to feed the people who are going to be laid off. And
Can
there
I
are
ask you a
lakhs of
question?
them. You
Can
can
I ask you?
please.
Let me ask you a question. See, first of all, sir, it's not my opinion that these individuals, these European leaders had surrendered. The Financial Times, look, I don't like
Let them say that.
No,
Okay.
let me just finish.
But they
I
all
don't-
got deals.
Allow me, sir. Allow me just 30 seconds. I don't like to in any case take certificates from these foreign newspapers, etc., etc. But please look at what Washington Post, the Financial Times, or even the gentleman whose quote I put out, Mr. Here he is. He's a
Rahul.
top investor. One second, and he says very, very clearly, and this is something that we can't minimize in the conversation. There he is.
Yeah.
He says, Arnold Bertrand, he says, Modi has political courage that Europe lacks. So there is all of this, but all
Did
be
you see
that,
the
all
interview
be
with
that
the
as it
Treasury
may.
Secretary
So I
laughing?
just want to.
Did you see him ridiculing us?
Okay,
Did you
one
see the
second,
short message?
Doctor, 1 second. All I'm saying is that this is not my opinion. These are considered experts who weighed in. So let's just park that aside. But
where is the
but do
package?
you agree that Modi is also, apart from all the other things, a consummate politician who is very aware that these things, if these poor people, if the MSME workers are going to get dented, his party's prospects will dim. Are you, if you are, do you think he's going to look away?
No, it won't dim. That's the tragedy of this of where we are.
Oh,
It
wow.
won't dim. Demonetization didn't
Can I
dim
please
it.
respond?
Oh, wow.
Demonetization did not dim it. Did demonetization
Oh, wow.
dim it?
Rahul, can I
That's
please come
the
in?
point.
Okay, let Radhika Khera come in. So now we are being contemptuous of people's pain by saying that they won't react to the pain. They've been numbed by the pain, numbed into inaction. I mean, that I think is, I don't know, viewers, you make up your mind. Because when you ask the pointed question, if you're going to get this answer, then what can anyone say? Anyhow.
No.
Yeah.
They have not reacted negatively to demonetization.
Because they
have
trust
still
Modi.
maintained- Good.
Because they trust
Maybe
Modi.
they will continue to trust him. Maybe they will continue to trust him.
Okay.
Can
So
I-
that's the
can I
end of it.
Good luck. Good luck to them. Good luck to them.
Sir, you mean it as a taunt. I mean,
I am no,
Look
not
at
at
the-
all. I am saying
you're almost
I am
wishing.
saying, where
anyhow,
is-
I'll bring in
where
Mr.
is the
Bagga to
package?
assess this
Where
impact.
is
We'll
the
bring in
package?
Mr. Bagga
Where
to
is the
assess.
package? No, you
But-
answer my question. Where is the package?
So it's coming.
Where
Can I
is the
please
package?
respond to
Let
Mr.
the
Raman?
government has already announced that they are working on it. Did you not read the front pages of the newspapers
When is
today?
it coming? When is it
The
coming?
GST is being promised also. There are a whole panoply of issues.
no.
When it comes, then you will say it's inadequate.
GST
Because this is what
GST
happened, viewers. They
council.
pushed and they pushed during
GST
COVID. They said it was inadequate.
said don't
Then when
believe
the
rumors.
packages went out and they buoyed the markets, they buoyed the
Rahul,
industries, then
did
they
you see
said that
the-
it's too much and it is going to
you see
lead
the
to a
post?
fiscal. Look,
Did you see the post where the GST council has said don't believe rumors and speculation?
okay, sir, please just
Can I
read the
please-
statements. Read
No,
the
did you read
statements, sir,
that?
please. Anyhow,
Did you
Radhika
read that?
Khera, you are not being compassionate enough now. The goalpost has changed from not surrendering. So great, you have not surrendered, but that means that your obvious obduracy means that hundreds and thousands of people are going to be out of jobs and your government is not going to be able to help them. So please respond on that.
Good evening to everyone. Rahul, whenever a country faces any sort of crisis, the entire country comes together. Unfortunately, in our country, we have this entire section, like Mr. Raman, who go around to spread panic and half-truths, and which is why debates like yours are very much required so that we can reach out
What
to
is
the
the
people
half-truth?
to
What
stop
is
this
the
panic
half-truth?
and half-truths. Sir, I did
No,
not
no,
speak
what
in
is the
between. You
half-truth?
can.
No, no, you can't
sir, I
accuse
did
me
not.
of- you
Rahul,
can't
I'm
accuse
sorry.
me
This
of
is not
half-truth.
the way.
What
This is
is
a
the
very
half-truth?
serious issue.
You said I'm
So
spreading
if
a
you let me
half-truth.
speak, you will
Answer
know
the
what the
half-truth.
half-truth is. Sir, I did not
Please
speak
tell
over
me.
you. Have the courage and let me speak. Give me the same amount of decency that I gave you when you were criticizing us. Now you have
No,
to bear
but
the criticism as well.
What is the
Please,
half-truth?
this is
What is the half-truth?
the
Let her,
Constitution
let
gives
her
me the
finish,
right to
sir.
give me my opinion.
Dr. Raman, let her
me
finish her
let me start.
point. You might get
You
the
cannot
answer.
behave like this.
If you don't, you can
I was
respond.
calmly listening to you. I did not agree with you, but I listened to you. Now you don't agree with me, you listen to me as well, sir. I am
I
a
didn't-
citizen
I
as
didn't
equal
accuse
as
you
you
of
are.
anything.
Sir,
I
I am
didn't
a citizen
accuse you
as
of
equal as
anything.
you are. I have a
Sir,
right
you
to my
accused
opinion. Let me
her. You
complete.
accused
I
her
did not
party
accuse
and
her
her
of
prime
anything.
minister. Her
Rahul, he
government.
accused our nation's prime minister. He is Mr. Raman's prime minister as well, whether he likes it or not. And if he doesn't like it,
I
he has
said
the
we need a
choice to leave the
package.
country. Coming back to the topic, can
This
you
is the
please
point.
mute him so
This
that
is
I
the
can
point.
really clear this
This is the point.
panic and half-truth that is being spread, which is very important for the country. Yes, challenges exist, but under Prime Minister Shri Modi's leadership, the government is not sitting idle. Already short-term relief measures are being planned for industries that are directly affected so that no worker is left in the lurch. Having said that, yes, the announcement of a 50% US tariff is undoubtedly a major move. But let me say this with utmost responsibility and very clearly. India will not be shaken. Under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, our economy has proven time and again that we can withstand global shocks, turn crises into opportunities, and emerge even stronger. Each time, India has not only survived, India has thrived. Today, our fundamentals are strong, solid 8.2% GDP growth, record forex reserves, rising FDI, and the world's third largest startup ecosystem. This is what is troubling the ecosystem, which is spreading these fake news. Now, we've seen this before. When nuclear sanctions were imposed, India did not collapse. During the global financial crisis, we held firm. In COVID, when the world was reeling, India not only protected its own citizens, but became the pharmacy of the world, which is a fact that Mr. Raman cannot deny. Now, every time India has risen above, sir, please listen to me. Today, our fundamentals are rock solid. We are the world's fastest growing major economy, adding over $300 billion to our GDP every year. We are soon going to be the third largest economy globally with a market of 1.4 billion people. Our industries are strong, our exports are diversified, our domestic demands are unmatched. So, yes, we will study the impact carefully, we will take necessary steps, but let me assure you, India's economy is resilient. India's industries are competitive, and India's government will never compromise on the interest of our farmers, our workers, or the small industries just to satisfy foreign lobbies and Mr. Raman over here. Now, energy security for 1.4 billion people, Rahul, is non-negotiable. We will buy from wherever it benefits our people. Trade diversification, reforms, and Atmanirbhar Bharat are already creating new strength. India is not isolated. We are building partnerships across Africa, Asia, and Europe to expand our horizons. And what we will do now, Mr. Raman, this is for you as well. First, we will absorb the shock. Our exports to
Hold the paper a little
exports
higher
to the
up.
US. Sir,
You're looking
listen.
down.
You've spoken enough.
No, you
Please
can hold the
listen.
paper.
Don't interrupt in
Hold the
between.
paper
I'm
up.
sure. Bhai, Rahul, today I know पढ़ाई से इतना ज्ञान तो नहीं आता कि जब कोई और बोले तो बीच में बोले
No,
ना.
please.
Mr. Raman, I did not speak
Please
in
hold
between.
the
Let me
paper a
complete.
little higher up.
We are first going to absorb the shock.
You're
Our
having to
exports to the
look
US.
down.
Sir,
and
what kind of discourse is this? Why are you
It's
criticizing
because
her?
he hates India.
For a non-issue.
It is not for Prime Minister Modi. The hatred is for
Okay,
India.
let's not descend into this quarrelsome.
He was the one
It's
who
sad
went
when
and
I'm
said,
trying
I
to
need
talk
half-
to the
She's,
nation.
she's
not
saying
told you
that
what half-
she
I have
said
not-
that
not pointed
she
out.
called you
Nothing
out
has
on the
been-
fact, sir,
He-
that you
he
have
just
said
read
that there
out-
is nothing
he
being
just
done
read
by
out
this
a lot of
government for the people.
And I'm
Anyhow,
going to tell
Just
4
read
points
out
of what
a
we are going to do.
detailed-
We are going to absorb, Mr. Raman, please. First, we are going to absorb the shock. Our exports to the US form just 2% of our GDP. So the macro impact is limited. Second, we are going to diversify our markets, expanding the trade with Europe, Africa, UAE, Australia,
Okay.
Japan, and beyond. Third, domestic demand generation. The GST rationalization and Atmanirbhar Bharat reforms will strengthen our internal consumption. Fourth, short-term relief for sectors that have been directly hit. So no Indian industry or worker has to bear the brunt, which Mr. Raman was talking
okay,
about.
so,
when
so
the world
viewers,
tries to test India,
let's see if
we
the
should
government
remember
walks the
that we
talk.
will not-
Okay, let's see if the government walks the talk. But I will tell you one thing, that given the fact that these are very sensitive areas and joblessness is a major issue, I believe that politically savvy government managers will never allow themselves to be exposed to a backlash on that account. Let me tell you, if anything, this government is very, very, very sensitive to public pain because it has political electoral repercussions, and a Bihar election is just around the corner. Anyhow, let me just open this up very quickly because we also have Professor Muni. Professor Muni, I have to ask you this question because it is a question that many Indians want answers to. If the national dignity and sovereignty has not been compromised, what is the problem? Rahul Gandhi said Modi cannot stand up. And he said like this, understand, my dear Indian brothers, Modi cannot stand up, his hands are tied because of Adani. He can't stand up to Trump because the moment he does so, Trump will open cases against Adani. These are his words, not mine. Now Modi has not only stood up to Trump, but he's pushed Trump to a point where he's had to risk goodwill of India and also impose a penalty on India, 25% plus. So is Rahul Gandhi spreading false rumors to try and weaken the resolve, the fight, or shake public confidence in a leader at a time when the nation is facing a crisis? It's a fundamental question. These are not my words. These are Rahul Gandhi's words, disproved by the PM. What is going on?
See, Rahulji, it's not about the ego that who pushes whom.
Sir, it was an accusation that was made. Am I wrong? Am I quoting Rahul Gandhi wrong?
I'll come to it, sir. I'll come to it. Just give me half a second.
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
You spoke about Make in India.
Don't talk about me, sir. I'm not the Rahul Gandhi who runs this country from the other side. I am only quoting Rahul Gandhi. Answer him. Don't answer me, please. Don't make it about me. Every time you come on this debate, you make it about me. Why should it be made about me? Am I running the country? May as well stand for election from the Congress party. Why don't you speak about your leader? Why don't you speak about his statements and how they are falling flat? Why don't you? Answer the question. That's the elephant in the room.
Sure. We were speaking about Make in India and employment generation. Make in India started in 2014 and the target of Make in India was 25% to be of GDP. Before 2014, in 2013 it was 14%. Today it's still 14% after 11 years. The Honorable Prime Minister remembers after 11 years out of nowhere कि चलो Make in India बोलते हैं, but 11 साल में Make in India का कुछ नहीं हुआ. ये सच्चाई है. Employment target from Make in India was 100 million. 11.4% of that 100 million was achieved in terms of job in 2014. Today also it's 12%. So there is no new jobs made. So today when Swadeshi and Make in India is talked about, it falls on a flat surface. Now talking about that other nation really crawled. Now the United States removed India from the Generalized System of Preferences GSP program, which ended up tariff-free access for $5.6 billion worth of Indian exports in the US. Unfortunately, India failed to prevent GSP removal. Now other players also removed like Canada, like EU. But Canada Prime Minister Justin Trudeau publicly called US tariffs a national security joke. EU said European Commission President Jean-Claude warned of countermeasures under WTO law. Interestingly, GSP program was installed for them. India gave muted response like we are discussing, we are hopeful of resolving. So the GSP was still there. So friends, it's not about who pushes whom. It's about the failure of diplomacy.
So now we are being told that India has not taken the fight to the United States. That's what we are being told now. Okay, Radhika Khera, he didn't answer the Rahul Gandhi comment and how it's fallen completely flat, but he's now changed the goalpost to say, well, Make in India hasn't grown. That's a point. Why don't you answer it? I'll bring in Mr. Bagga to wrap it up. Yes.
Rahul, I know with experience that it's very difficult to defend Rahul Gandhi, so I don't blame him that he doesn't have an answer. Well, also it is laughable when he says that nothing has happened in 11 years of Make in India. Facts don't lie. Under Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, India has become the world's second largest mobile phone manufacturer. Apple now makes iPhones here. Micron has set up a semiconductor plant. Defense exports have hit high record highs. And we've crossed $250 billion in electronic exports, textiles, pharma, auto, railways, every sector, and seeing new plants and new jobs. Congress ruled for 54 out of 75 years and never built an electronic or semiconductor base. If Make in India had fallen flat, like he says, global giants wouldn't be lining up to shift supply chains here. So where the new iPhone is going to be.
Let me bring in Mr. Bagga and Sushant Sareen. Sushant Sareen, you were raising your hand quickly before I bring in Mr. Bagga. Yes.
Yeah, just 2 or 3 points. One, I would sound a note of caution to people like Radhika. that listen, it's all very well to be very, very resolute about the challenges that we are going to be facing. But I think it is also important to not, pretend as though people are not going to get hurt. There will be hurt, there will be pain. So I think you should prepare the people for that rather than saying nothing will happen to anybody, we will take care of everybody. That's not going to be possible. That's just a word of caution to you so that everybody braces himself for whatever impacts are going to come. So just think about it.
Okay.
I can understand that it's a political compulsion that you have to say that nothing will happen, but something will happen.
Okay.
Secondly, I think from an Indian point of view, what really scares me is the fact that this whole rules-based order that we were talking about has been undone now by the Trump administration, not just in trade and tariffs, but in every other aspect. And the problem with that is going to be that this makes doing global business that much more difficult. Today, you have imposed tariffs on a certain set of commodities. Tomorrow, you might suddenly flip over and say, I'm going to impose it on something else. They're already threatening to say that if you are going to do any kind of, regulation on digital transactions, we are going to impose tariffs on you. So this is a never-ending business. And I think we really need to start factoring that in before economic decisions are being made or trade decisions.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Bagga. Where do you come in on the impact? What are we going to see tomorrow?
Yeah, Rahul, there will be an impact in the short term till we find other markets, till domestic consumption stands up. GST Council meets on 3rd September, 4th September, and we are expecting cuts to be announced effective 22nd September. Okay. So till that comes through, domestic consumption is in a stall mode for now. People are waiting for those cuts to come through. Markets are in a zone where corporate earnings are growing at about 10 to 12%, but the markets were valued high. So we have seen some money going into China, Hong Kong, Korea kind of markets, which are cheaper valuation markets. And some foreign outflows have happened in India. But the good news is 4 lakh crores has come in from domestic investors. So domestic investors putting in 25-30,000 crores a month against the total outflows from foreign investors is about 1 lakh crores till August end. And we have seen 4 lakh crores coming from domestic investors. So, the reflection of the markets changing, strength of the market is the domestic investor.
Well, viewers, also rating agencies and the IMF are projecting more growth. In fact, they've upped their numbers, taking into account all these scenarios and possibilities. Now, viewers, I leave it at this. Tomorrow we'll come back to this subject because we're going to see the impact on the markets first. We'll also track which areas of the market have suffered, if at all. And then, viewers, we will come back with trade analysts and others to explore options and what can be done to address the pain, and if whether we're already doing something to do so. Let's move on, viewers, because there's a very important story that I want to focus on. It's coming out of Karnataka. The ongoing Dasara Rao in Karnataka has exploded into a full-blown controversy over faith, identity and politics. First, the Congress government's decision to invite a Muslim writer to inaugurate festivities at the Dasara historic festival in Mysuru sparked outrage among Hindu groups who see it as yet another attempt to dilute the spiritual essence of Dasara. Now, second, viewers, matters have only worsened when Congress leaders claimed that Chamundi Hills was, quote, not Hindu property, unquote, a provocation that has further inflamed sentiments. D.K. Shivkumar, Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister, no less, has come out and said, and I quote, Goddess Chamundeshwari belong to all communities. Chamundi Hills, not the property of Hindus alone. All communities pray to Goddess Chamundeshwari. I myself visit churches, mosques, Jain temples and gurudwaras. Has anyone claimed Ayodhya Ram temple is only for Hindus? Unquote. Now, critics allege a larger pattern. After Waqf boards were granted Hindu lands, now even festivals are being gifted away, viewers, for appeasement. BJP has come out and said after Dharamstala in Hindu lands, Congress has set its sights on the abode of the state deity Chamundi Devi. To please the Congress High Command, DCM D.K. Shivkumar has declared that Chamundi Hill does not belong to Hindus. Viewers, if de-Hinduization or if de-Hinduizing Dasara is what the Congress calls secularism, the questions remains. Is vote bank arithmetic being placed above Karnataka's cultural and civilizational heritage? Let's open this up because this is a very, very important debate, viewers. It is roiling sentiments. Let's open this up. Let's go straight across to Maharaja of Vodiyar, who is a BJP MP. Yaduvirji, thank you very much for speaking to me. Where do you stand on the invite to Banu Mushtaq to inaugurate Dasara festivities, and also what DK Shivkumar has said, saying that Chamundi Hills isn't exclusively a Hindu place of reverence or a Hindu property? How do you respond to this?
Well, with regards to inviting Miss Banu Mushtaq, I have made it abundantly clear. We have laud her contribution to Kannada literature. But at the same time, in 2023, she has expressed on a Kannada literary stage that she feels out of place or not welcome because there is a photo of Bhuneshwari Tai, which is, of course, the state deity or the goddess to which Kannada language and in general the Kannada identity aligns itself to. And also the fact that the Kannada flag has both red and kesari and yellow on it, arshna, or the turmeric color. So both of these sentiments do not necessarily go in line with the dharmic tradition. And given the fact that the Dasara tradition in Mysore is obviously from a background that is purely dharmic, we have expressed concern that if that is going to be the sentiment that she comes to participate and inaugurate the festival with, it is certainly not the right way.
Okay, I want to ask you, because the claim is Dasara is not linked to Hindu religion. It's a cultural festival open to all. The Congress says this and accuses the BJP of communalization. How do you respond to this?
I think to sit here and justify the dharmic background or give proof of the dharmic background of the festival is utterly ridiculous, because it flies in the face of tradition. There is, I don't know, maybe thousands of years of proof that the Navratri tradition is in fact a dharmic tradition. It is purely stems from that, and while yes, the state government comes under a constitutional framework and has to conduct itself in a secular nature, the fact remains that this particular festival, which was inherited, the public aspect of it at least inherited from my family, is purely a dharmic one. And they start the inauguration by the floral tribute to the deity, or in this case an idol of goddess Chamundeshwari. All of these are markers of a dharmic tradition. And I think when these facts present themselves and are obvious to the majority of people, I think it is insulting to call it anything but a dharmic tradition.
Okay, so thank you very much, Yaduvir Vodiyar, for speaking to me. Let's open this up. Let's go across to our guests and let's put some basic questions. And I want to begin really with the BJP national spokesperson here. And we also have Professor Muni. We don't have much time, but I'm going to ask you, Professor, you've taken over Hindu places of worship through various laws which were instituted under Congress governments in the past. The HRNC acts were all brought under Congress dispensations. In Karnataka, they gifted Hindu land to Waqf boards till there was a hue and cry. They also did it in another state. Now you're denying Hindu festivals their religious sanctity. Is the Hindu community constantly to give certificates to justify that they have religious sensitivities that must be respected? Is this secularism, Professor Muni? Would you ask these certificates of Muslim people, whether it came to Ram Mandir, etc.? You went to the extent, through your lawyers, through your party lawyers, to make Hindus bring out all sorts of documents, to go into the past. You dissected their mythology, their history, their religious texts. You also, most importantly, went ahead and ordered an ASI survey, etc., etc. But you don't ask the Muslims to prove ownership when they are squatting on Hindu lands or, of course, most importantly, Hindu temples. Why is this discrimination, sir? Why this de-Hinduization?
See, Rahulji, if you really look at it, this is not de-Hinduization, or there is no relation of Hindu-Muslim problem here.
Okay.
I'll just give you some example. You have problem with inaugurating a Muslim inaugurating Dasara. In 2017, poet K.S. Nisar Ahmad, also a Muslim, inaugurated Dasara without controversy. When that happened, there was no hue and cry. Why then now? I don't understand. If you understand, please tell me. Earlier, Sir Mirza Ismail, a Muslim diwan under the Waders, expanded Dasara into a visionary cultural and industrial display. The person from Waders were with you. You should have asked him that when Sir Mirza Ismail did it.
Can I then ask you, sir, why does the Muslim community have a problem? And you know what has happened in Kerala today. The Muslim community, 2 teachers came out and said that none of the students should come out and pay obeisance and participate in prayers on Onam because it's a Hindu festival. So, why is that the case, sir?
Sir, I think 2 wrongs don't make a 1 right.
Oh no.
They might be wrong.
One second.
There have today.
One second. Then why, sir, did your political party, the one that you know, why did your political party, okay, 1 second. Viewers, look at the extent to which this has gone. Your political party, the one you support, the Congress party, got up in Parliament. If you remember, Professor, and it said that a Waqf board cannot have non-Muslims to administer it. They made a huge hue and cry, to the point where the government had to resile on that. The Waqf is also a religious entity. That's why it was made. So where does where does secular inclusiveness go then? When your party crawls because there is a veto from the Muslim community. Why?
As on today, sir, Waqf board has many CEOs.
Sir, I'm asking you a question. Why was it opposed in principle? Why was it? Because it is a religious, supposedly a religious authority, isn't it? That's why. That's what they said.
Sir, if CEOs from Hindu religion can be of Waqf
Sir,
board,
I'm asking you a question. Please answer me. Please answer me a question, sir. You had no problems when Firhad Hakim. You had no problems when Firhad Hakim was appointed as chairman of the Tarkeshwar board. At that time, you were lauding inclusivity.
No, I have also no problem when Ram Naik was attending Eid Milan hosted by Shia clerics.
That doesn't matter. He wasn't inaugurating anything. He wasn't sitting and wasn't the presiding deity. Then you have a problem with Modi. No, you have a problem with Modi going. No, hang on. You have a problem with Modi going. Because they have a problem with Modi going or to the Chief Justice of India's house on a revered day to offer prayers. They have a problem. Look at the way the goalposts are. Anyhow, one second. One second. You tell me, the claim that has been made is that Chamundeshwari Devi Hills are not Hindu property. They are open to anybody and everybody can go there. There is no sanctity. Therefore, Dasara also it's not a festival. It is a cultural occasion.
No. I want to tell you that Chamundi Hills is a government property. And
okay, 1 second. Radhika Kera, could you respond?
Since long
that is the question. Denying Hindu...
long-standing fact that people, Hindus, Muslim, Christians, Jains, Sikhs, freely visit Chamundi Hills and Chamundeshwari temple also to pray.
A quick response. Yes, a quick response.
What could be a bigger betrayal of Karnataka's faith than this? The Congress government has invited Banu Mushtaq, a woman who has openly sympathized with radicals, to inaugurate the Mysuru Dashera, a festival of Ma Chamundeshwari herself. Now, this is the same Congress who's
openly sympathized with whom?
With radicals. There are many statements of her and criticizing Hindus. There are lots for everyone to see. But we understand why this happens, Rahul, because DK Shiv Kumar has shamelessly gone on to say that Chamundi Hills does not belong to Hindus. I challenge him via your show today. Does he have the guts to say that the Chama Masjid of Bijapur and the Masjid-e-Ala of Srirangapatna, I think, in Karnataka. It does not belong to Muslims. Does the Congress have that guts to say that this particular mosque does not belong to Muslims? But no, they will go and attack the Hindus. And when every Hindu, every citizen of Karnataka knows that Chamundi Hills are sacred to our civilization for centuries. It is the very seat of the goddess who symbolizes the victory of a dharma over dharma. And by saying this, they're not only insulting the Devi, they're also insulting every Hindu in Karnataka and across Bharat who has always voted for them. No, but why should we be surprised, Rahul? This is the same Congress that has glorified Tipu Sultan in the past as a freedom fighter and has ignored the massacres that he's unleashed on the Kodavars, the Mandyams, the Iyangars and the Malabar Hindus. So they are anti-Hindus in the same Congress who stopped the Ram
viewers,
Navami
if inclusivity matters
Deepavali
so much,
celebrations.
if inclusivity matters so much to the Congress, and Professor Muni, please answer this question.
It doesn't
Why
matter.
on the question of Waqf
Kharge
boards
saying that they will destroy Sanatan.
okay,
Rahul Gandhi said
the
Hindu
law,
Hinsak hai.
okay, one second, the bill that was introduced said very clearly that we will have, to promote inclusivity, we will have non-Muslims and women on Waqf boards. And this was opposed.
No,
And if inclusivity matters so much that people's faith can easily be blurred, then why not adopt the UCC? Why have a problem with UCC? Please answer these two questions.
See, UCC is long debate. If you call
No,
me
there's no
on-
long debate. It's a
I'm not
principle.
talking about UCC.
If you believe that
I believe
inclusivity,
in UCC.
uniformity is very important, then why not UCC?
I
Why
believe
not?
in UCC,
Why not
but
non-Muslims
then
on
UCC
Waqf boards?
should be for everyone.
Why not non-Muslims
For
on
poor
Waqf
people,
boards?
Northeastern,
Why not
UCC
non-Muslims on Waqf boards, sir?
I'll tell you. Sir, the CEO, I told you many times, the CEO of many work board today in India are Hindus. So you can check the facts. And Radhika Kheda
Sir, can you show me? Can you show me?
with
Because the first
inclusivity.
objection that was made, excuse me, the first objection that was made, viewers, don't fall for this. Do not fall for this. The first objection that was
examples.
raised by Asaduddin Owaisi, the Congress party and other so-called secular parties, viewers, was that there cannot be non-Muslims on Waqf boards. Simple. That would be a travesty. That would mean the colonization of Islam in this country. And that's why the government had to concede, even in the Supreme Court, which asked and raised the question, had to concede that point. But viewers, neither will the Supreme
Rahul.
Court intervene. Yes, very quickly, 10 seconds.
Yeah, Rahul, in 2023, in the Jan Sahitya Sammelan,
Okay.
the same Banu Mushtaq had said that Kannada goddess Bhuvneshwari is draped in yellow and red, and those are exclusionary careers. And
There
she
you go.
was
Viewers,
protesting against it.
Will she be
And now
able
you're
to?
inviting
Will
the
she
same
be
woman.
able to do justice to the teachings, the preachings of Chamundeshwari, her sanctity? That's the question. I leave it at this, viewers. Watching, the hard facts were brought to you by Schneider Electric's Smart Home Solutions.
Presented by. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Speaking of United States and Donald Trump, has the US president wavered from his America First agenda? Some of his MAGA base definitely feel so, because the US president has now defended a proposal to grant student visas to 600,000 Chinese nationals as part of ongoing trade talks with Beijing. So what's behind this pivot? I delve deeper. President Donald Trump is a mercurial man, that's no secret. But his latest U-turn has left even his most loyal supporters baffled. The US president has announced that 600,000 Chinese students will be permitted to study at American colleges. Donald Trump claimed his decision was important to maintain ties between the two countries. Chinese students will help keep many US colleges financially afloat, he said. In fact, China hopes that the United States will act on Trump's commitment to welcome Chinese students and urge the administration to stop harassment and interrogation of Chinese students.
We're getting along very well with China, and I'm getting along very well with President Xi. I think it's very insulting to say students can't come here, because they'll go out and they'll start building schools and they'll be able to survive it. But I like that their students come here. I like that other countries' students come here. And you know what would happen if they didn't? Our college system would go to hell very quickly. You'd have, and it wouldn't be the top colleges. It would be colleges that struggle on the bottom. And you take out 300,000 or 600,000 students out of the system. I like having, and I told this to President Xi, that we're honored to have their students here.
But this announcement comes at a time when the Trump administration is cracking down on illegal immigration. His base, especially hardline MAGA supporters, push back strongly. Many saw this move as a betrayal of his America First agenda. Some said Americans were tired of decades and decades of this treason. Conservative figures, including Marjorie Taylor Greene and former advisor Steve Bannon, sharply criticized the plan, arguing that guaranteeing 600,000 visas could undermine national security and intellectual property protections. The latest stance of the US president is also a stark contrast to what the Trump administration had said 3 months ago. In May 2025 visa policy change statement, Secretary of State Marco Rubio had said, the US State Department will work with the Department of Homeland Security to aggressively revoke visas for Chinese students. The statement read, and I quote, "We will also revise visa criteria to enhance scrutiny of all future visa applications from People's Republic of China." So then what changed? For one, the ongoing trade negotiations with China. By treating visas for students as a gesture of goodwill, Donald Trump aimed to ease tensions and highlight shared economic and educational interests. Trump's tariffs have threatened to deteriorate US-China relations over the past year, but Beijing too has been playing hardball. Tit-for-tat tariffs would throw the American economy in a tizzy, and Donald Trump is well aware of that. That explains why Washington and Beijing reached a trade truce and decided to give negotiators more time to find common ground. But Donald Trump's newfound love for China is diametrically opposite to the stance taken for India. Indian students experienced massive upheaval, with thousands having their student and exchange visitor program records terminated or their visas revoked, sometimes even for minor undocumented reasons. This has created widespread fear, legal confusion, and instability. A study, in fact, found that 50% of reported visa revocations affected Indian students, making Indians the most affected group, followed by Chinese students. In fact, the Chinese students made up for roughly a quarter of foreign students in the United States. That figure stood at 270,000 during the 2023-2024 school year. Meanwhile, in that same period, 331,000 Indian students were studying in the United States. So why does then Trump want Indian students out, but not the Chinese? Well, maybe because Chinese students like to return to their homeland, unlike Indian students who chose to stay there and work for American and European companies. Students who graduate in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM fields as they're called, often apply for a 24-month extension for Optional Practical Training Program, or the OPT program. But that too now is under direct threat as the Trump administration pushes for its elimination, along with several new tax proposals, fraud crackdowns, and stricter oversight. So then why this disparity between India and China? For one, it's strategic calculus. Trump's policy appears to be transactional, welcoming Chinese students as a bargaining chip in trade talks with Beijing, while keeping the domestic enforcement aggressive against others, including India. It's national security versus economic gain for the Trump administration, it seems. The crackdown on Indian and other international students was largely framed around security concerns and controlling immigration flows, despite their vital contribution to the US economy and to innovation specifically. And given the backlash from the MAGA base on this China decision,
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Donald Trump's hypocrisy is on full display. He has slapped tariffs on India even as he himself chases energy deals with Russia. A new report spills the beans on how the US is in discussions with Russia for energy deals and more. We'll bring you all the details. Meanwhile, the US president is taking aim at the Fed too. He wants to fire a governor of the American Central Bank. We'll tell you what that means for the global economy. And in a move that raises eyebrows, Trump wants a stake in US defense companies. His Commerce Secretary has called them an extension of the US government. Also in focus, the making of another conflict. What are American warships doing in Venezuelan waters? How floods have ravaged northern India. Why Tokyo's Africa ambitions have sparked furor in Japan. How shops and restaurants in India will be barred from asking for your mobile number for billing. Why the parents of a teenager in the US have sued OpenAI for his suicide. And why Botswana in Africa has declared a public health emergency. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Russia opposes European countries sending peacekeeping troops to Ukraine, also rules out any meeting between the two presidents in the near future. Kiev is pushing for Western-backed security guarantees as part of any agreement with Moscow, while Russia wants Ukraine to cede more territory in the east.